You're losing talent on your team and you don't know why. Tell me if this sounds like your team. High performing individuals are regularly leaving your team for other opportunities. Thus, you're now spending countless amounts of time, money, and effort recruiting, hiring, interviewing, onboarding, and retraining new employees only for this cycle to repeat itself a few months down the road. This sounds like you. Are you tired of it? Are you tired of losing the talent and because of that, losing time and money in the process? Well, on this episode of the Libretti Leadership Lab, we're going to get into some of the reasons why you might not be able to retain talent, what it's actually costing you, and some things you can do right now to keep that talent within your team to see success in the long term. If you get any value out of this video or other videos on this YouTube page, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you leave the comment at the bottom, leadership at the end of this video, you'll get a shout out in the future episode. Love you guys. Stay strong. All right, this is Libretti Leadership Lab number 11 with me, John Libretti. For those of you who don't know me, I am the founder of SPEARHEAD Leadership Consulting and Coaching. We're the bar rescue, the John Taffer for your business. I get into the trenches of your business day to day with you to identify your biggest problems and how to solve them through leadership development and turn those high performers on your team into skilled leaders. If you're interested to learn more about us and what we do, feel free to find us on our website at www.spearheadleadership.co. We're also on Instagram at _spearheadleadership. And you can also find us on LinkedIn at Spearhead Leadership. And of course, this YouTube page, Apple and Spotify, where we have the Libretti Leadership Lab. All right. Last week, we discussed accountability, talking the talk, and walking the walk regarding the astronomer CEO and HR chief debacle. This week, we're getting into talent retention, a common issue that leaders face, business owners face on a regular basis for a number of different reasons. One of the more ongoing issues that leaders are faced with is keeping the talent, keeping those high performers on your team, especially nowadays when the younger generations, the newer generations getting into the workforce don't have the same, I don't want to call it loyalty, but they don't have the same mindset when it comes to their career paths. The baby boomers, the greatest generation, even the Gen X side of the house, the mindset was always you find your job in that particular career industry and the company, and you stick with it until retirement. That's always how it's been. It's been even ingrained into us as kids. I remember growing up, listening to the way my grandparents talked about their jobs, my parents talked about their jobs. There was always that sort of subconscious loyalty to the company that they're working for. And there was never even a conversation or a thought for a lot of people on finding other opportunities in different companies, bouncing around to different businesses. Well, now it's a little different, right? Especially with the new workforce, the younger generations in the workforce. What are we up to? Gen Alphas, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas. The loyalty piece is gone, and that's not always a bad thing. I'm not saying these young kids are not loyal and they don't know what they got. No, it's just the way of the world. Okay, their career goals and their paths are taking them to different locations now. But there are still ways for you as a leader, if you're a business owner, if you're a hiring manager, to maintain that talent, retain that talent, and keep those high performers with your team so that everybody can see long-term success. And we're going to go through a little bit of that today. And I want to start with some of the causes for your talent, your high performers, people leaving your organization, your team, your business, whatever. The most common. And a lot of this stuff, I'm going to caveat right now, a lot of this stuff we've discussed in part in different episodes of the Libretti Leadership Lab. You'll hear about it in the episode about morale, about building relationships. It's all interconnected and intertwined, but I really want to have a dedicated discussion about specific talent retention now and reiterate the importance of some of the things we're going to talk about on this topic, because this stuff is, again, most of the leadership traits and skills and principles that we discuss that help make you a better leader are simple, but have to be done repetitively on a constant daily basis. They're a never-ending cycle of focusing on improvement in that regard. So that's why we're going to reiterate this stuff. I'm not trying to be a broken record. That's just how leadership is. That's why you don't see as many good leaders out there. It's because it requires consistency and discipline. And that's not easy to do. It's simple, but it's not easy to do. Okay. Now, some of the common causes, the most common and probably the most problematic is toxic work environment. Every single survey and study done in the last 10 years, toxic work environment is at the top of the list of reasons why people leave their jobs. Always at the top. It doesn't matter how much you're paying people. It doesn't matter how successful the team is. It doesn't matter how much leave you give. If you're a bad leader and you're promoting, you're allowing a toxic work environment, you may be a good person. You may not be the specific reason as the leader or the business owner, but if you're allowing poisons, rotten apples within the team to poison the well, to ruin for the rest of the team, people are going to leave. And the top performers are usually those people that leave first because they know this is not worth my time. I have more value that I'm being, recognized for here. And they bounce. So toxic work environment. We'll talk about more of that later on. Another reason, and these are not in no particular order, by the way, but just some of the notes I wrote down were just how they came out of my brain here. So little to no career growth within that company. And that's a big thing these days. Okay. And it aligns with some other reasons why people leave when it comes to motivations and values. But if you don't have a path for growth for particular jobs, particular companies, most people nowadays are going to see this as a dead end. And again, this is not a particular thing that you can throw money at this problem to solve it all the time. Okay. Money's good. Salary's good. We'll talk about that. But it's not the biggest be all end all problem and solution here. And a lack of a career growth opportunities is a reason people leave. They go to a different company that offer them that growth, that ladder up, if that's what they want. All right. While we're talking about money, poor benefits and compensation. Now, like I said, it's not the be all end all, but compensation is still pretty important. People want to feel like they're being paid for what they're worth. Okay? And whether we like it or not, salary and benefits is an easy metric that employees look at when they evaluate how they're perceived to be worth by the organization. So, for instance, if they're getting $50,000 a year to do a job that normally pays, $140 somewhere else, they're going to be thinking, and I know this from experience on both sides, they're going to be thinking, oh, this company doesn't value me. They don't see this job as important. They don't see my work as important enough to compensate me appropriately. And they're going to start thinking about other opportunities. And it's not just salary. It's other benefits as well to show, again, how much the organization values their your expertise and your performance in that role. So it can include, bonuses, paid time off, sick days, other, 401k retirement options, things like that. If you're not willing to compensate people for what they're worth, their value, you're gonna lose those high performers. That talent is gonna seek opportunity elsewhere where they feel more valued. Which brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about here is they don't feel valued by leadership. Now, again, salary and benefits and compensation is the easiest metric to assess that initially, to evaluate how valuable you are perceived by the company. But there are other ways too. Seeing how the leadership treats its employees. If my boss considers me just a cog in the wheel and just a replaceable part, then it's going to be tough for me as a human being with feelings and emotions to want to actually do more for that leader, for that supervisor. To feel, if I don't feel any value, what am I doing here? At some point, it's going to become you're punching the clock, you're punching your time card just to collect the paycheck, do the bare minimum to stay alive, to survive, to get your paycheck and move on. And then eventually it gets to the point where people seek other opportunities. People want to feel valued. They want to feel what they perceive to be their value, which is not always possible to do as a leader because everybody has their own opinion on their value. But if you make them feel like they're a valuable member of your team, they're going to stick around a little bit more. There are going to be other things that open up for them and for you and for your organization when you have a team full of individuals that feel valued and feel part of something bigger than just them. And if you don't do that, that's going to be another reason why you may lose out on talent. Again, there is a correlation between the high performers and the people that don't feel, if they don't feel valued, if they don't feel like they're being compensated enough, if they're working in a toxic environment, those people are going to leave first because they know they have the awareness, the wherewithal to know I have talent and it's not being appreciated and it's not being utilized appropriately. So I'm going to go seek opportunities elsewhere where it will be utilized and I will be valued more. Now, what does this cost to you? This is a big thing I want to harp on because I don't think enough business owners, entrepreneurs, supervisors, managers, leaders in general take the time to actively sort of crunch the numbers on what this costs them to have to constantly deal with losing out on high performers, losing out on talent, and having to rehire, retrain new people on a regular basis. This is sort of a problem that occurs when you have poor leadership and they have that egotistical mindset of you're replaceable. Oh, I'll just find somebody else. You don't want to do what I'm telling you at the price point I'm giving you, then you can go find opportunity elsewhere. People have heard that before. We've all dealt with that before in some matter of form. And what these leadership elements, what these people don't realize is that it's costing them much more than what they think that they're saving by hiring somebody else. Because you're losing out on three big things. You're losing out on time and effort. I consider that one thing because now you have to take the time to go recruit, interview, hire, set up onboarding for a team member. If you're a business owner, if you're a small business entrepreneur, you're doing most of that stuff yourself, at least in the beginning. So that takes a lot of time. And when you're focusing your time on that more often than not, guess what you're not focusing your time and energy on? Growing your business in other aspects. And because of that, because you're losing on that time, you're also losing out on money. Okay? It doesn't just cost money to retrain people and hire and fire and all that. It costs you money directly because you're not doing your job as the owner, as the supervisor, as the manager, CEO, whatever. Because you're spending time, even if it's a little extra time, you're spending that time on this endless cycle of recruiting, interviewing, hiring, onboarding, retraining, what have you. The other thing that you're losing out on is ongoing long term success of the team. If you look at all the most successful teams throughout history, mainly in sports, it's the easiest to probably see this in sports. The dynasty teams, the Patriots of the early 2000s, as much as I hate to say it as a Giants fan, the Yankees of the late 90s, early 2000s, and other decades for the Yankees. All these dynasty era successful teams, the big thing that they share in common is that they have a core set of individuals on the team that sticks with them in the long term for more than one season or half a season or whatever. And the teams that are constantly trading players, getting rid of other people, losing out on talent, people requesting trades, requesting to be released, what have you, and having to constantly rebuild every single year, the success just isn't there. The success just is not there. Look at a team, again, in sport. We're going to the sports world. Look at a team like the Miami Marlins. They win a World Series with the team that they build around. Then they get rid of all those players because for whatever reason, different reasons, they don't want to pay them enough. They don't have the money to pay them enough or compensate them enough. Other reasons why they're leaving, and they start over from scratch. And they only win, they're only a good team once every decade, maybe. And that wears on you. If you're a business owner, you're a leader, that wears you out. That constant stress and time and effort to just knowing the fact, oh, I have to go and rehire for this position. And every 6 months, my team breaks apart. I have to rebuild it in some way, shape, or form. That costs you much more in the long term. If you have a core group of people, high performers on your team that stick around, everything trickles down to be a little bit more effective and a little easier for you if you think about it. You don't have to spend as much time training new people, retraining and getting people integrated onto the team. You don't have to spend time rebuilding relationships, and your team doesn't have to spend time rebuilding relationships with new members. You can focus on your position as CEO or owner or supervisor, whatever the position that you hold. Your team can now focus on their job as opposed to other things when it comes to bringing in a new hire. Now your tasks and missions are being focused on more often, and you're going to see more success, more steady, long-term, impactful success because of it. So, time, money, success. 3 big costs to you. And if you take the time to actually crunch the numbers for your particular business, for your team, you would be unpleasantly and wildly surprised at the actual monetary value that you're losing out on because you're not able to retain a core group of team members, high performers. You're losing that talent. Now, what can we do about it? Great question. There are some things that we're going to talk about. It's not all the ways, but these are just some of the basic things that you can focus on, some of the key things you can focus on to help keep your team together. And we've sort of touched on them already, and we've definitely touched on them in other episodes and other things we put out there at Spearhead. because again, this stuff is important and it's all connected. The big thing, I'm going to hit home on this one as often as possible. Build better relationships with your team members, with your employees, with the people you work with and who work for you. Better relationships makes everything easier as a leader. Everything. Communications easier, conflict resolutions easier, giving feedback, evaluating performance. Everything becomes easier when you have a strong relationship built on trust and respect with the members of your team. Like I always say, the skill of good leadership is a people skill. Leadership is a people endeavor. It's not a duty title. You're not a good leader if just because you're a CEO or a manager or it says director in front of your job title. It's a people skill. You're a good leader if you're able to lead people, not handle the job as director of operations or whatever. Not because you were hired in as a director leadership level position. And the key to that people skill is building quality relationships. And I know we've touched on this more in depth in a previous episode. You can go check that out on the YouTube page, Spotify, Apple as well. Building relationships. I'll put the link here on YouTube on the, what is it, the left side of the screen, right side of the screen here. You can click on that and check that out more. But here are some things you can do to help build that relationship with people. Find out what their goals are. You know your company's goals. You know your team's strategic goals and values and mission. What are your team members' goals? What are your employees' individual goals for their careers, for their job in that role? What are their motivations? Are they driven by salary only? Are they looking for something more? Do they want those career growth opportunities? Are they hoping for training opportunities and certification opportunities? Have that conversation with them. Find out what your team members want out of this opportunity. And you'd be surprised what some of the answers you get from people. It's not always salary. Yes, some positions it absolutely is only salary. I'm not saying it's never going to happen. But a lot of times it's something else. Work-life balance is a big thing these days. Hybrid work opportunities is a big thing these days. Remote work opportunities is a big thing. All these things are factors that you might not know your own team members are looking for. And if there's a way you can provide that to them, if that job position for that individual can be done from a home 3 to 5 days a week, and they can still be successful and still be valuable members of the team, and they're going to get more buy-in, they're going to feel more valued as a team member, why wouldn't you want to do something like that? Offer up that remote opportunity or hybrid opportunity. It's costing you nothing extra. It's empowering them. It's making them feel like their goals and their wants and their values are being listened to and heard and valued by you as the leader. On paper, it seems like a no-brainer. To me, I don't understand why more leaders don't do this. But have the conversation with your people. Find out what they're looking for out of this position. And then if you can, provide the path to help them accomplish that. Now, there are going to be instances when you can't provide what everybody's looking for. If you're a direct supervisor in a larger organization and an individual says they want hybrid work or they want more paid time off, they want more vacation days, or they want more salary, whatever it is, and you're not the decision maker on that, it's understandable. You can't just say, oh, yeah, we'll get you more money, we'll get you more holidays, knowing that you can't provide that. You can't guarantee that. But part of building the relationship with somebody is being open, honest, and transparent about that. And you can let them know, hey, I'm not the decision maker. I can't make the choice on more holidays or hybrid work, but I know who can, and I will have the conversation with them to see what we can make happen, see what kind of flexibility we have here, and I'll let you know. It's not a guarantee, but I'm going to try to make something happen for you. And then you actually go out and do that. Again, your actions are going to be what people take in the most, what your individuals on your team take in the most, not what you say. You got to walk the walk too. So if you tell them, hey, I'm going to go try to find this information out and try to help you out, go try to help them out. It's as simple as that. I know it's not actually easy to do, but it's as simple as that. Open and honest conversation with your people, build a relationship. The most important thing, have good relationships with your team members, and they'll want to stick around more. There's never been an employee who left a job because they had a good relationship with their team and their supervisor. They left in spite of that. Maybe there was another reason. Family issue, or the team that couldn't meet salary demands and I need to get this for my family, whatever it is, but they're never going to say, oh yeah, the relationship was too good. I love my team members so much that I had to leave. No, if anything, it's the thing that's going to keep them there. And I've experienced this firsthand in positions I've held in the past where the job stunk, the money stunk, the overarching leadership stunk, but my team and my immediate lower level frontline supervisors were awesome. I loved working with that team. I love working with those people on a regular basis. They made all the other crappy things about the position tolerable. And it was definitely a factor in me sticking around there longer than I probably should have. So again, nobody's gonna leave because relationships are too good. So build the relationships, better relationships, key. I'm gonna harp on it all day long. Another thing you can do and focus on, and we just touched on this, is take action on the ideas and feedback provided to you by your team members, by your employees. Again, saying you hear them and saying, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and then doing nothing about them shows more to your employees about your inability as a leader than anything else. Word service does not play anymore. You can't just say, good idea, and then do nothing about it. And it is a key aspect of actually building better relationships, building trust, building credibility with your team members, is by listening to their ideas. When you're working on a project and you have a task going on, you're trying to update a process in your business, and somebody has a good idea, put it into play, give it a shot. Ask them for feedback on your performance as the leader and take it in. Don't just push back and point fingers and be like, well, I can't do that and this and that. Take it in. And if it's good quality, constructive feedback, take action on it. Your actions will speak much louder than your words and will have a greater impact on your team's feeling of value and importance within the organization than anything else. There was a professor I had, I think I've talked about him in the past, leadership course I took years ago. And one of the axioms he mentioned, and again, I think I've said this before, but I'm going to reiterate it because it is valuable. If you tell them to do it, they won't do it. And that goes back to actions speak louder than words. You have to show them through your actions. You have to set the example. And that example can be easily set by listening to their ideas and their feedback and taking action on that. You don't even have to say anything. Just take action on it and they'll see this guy's listening to me. This gal's listening to me. It's going to keep people, again, if they feel valuable, they'll stick around more. If they think that if they feel that their leadership is listening to them and valuing their opinions and what they're doing, they're going to stick around longer. Compensation. Talked about it. We kind of already talked about it. But once again, if you have the means to bump up a salary, if someone's, if someone is deserving of it, and it's a way that they're saying, hey, everything is great, everything's hunky dory here, but if I can't meet this threshold of salary and compensation, I have to find another opportunity for the sake of my family and income stream, whatever. And that's a possibility. It's not always about a greedy desire to get paid more. A lot of times I just need to get this much to take care of my family comfortably. Or again, compensation can be more time off, different sort of combinations of paid time off, PTO, leave, whatever your business and organization calls it. It could be compensating with you only have to work 3 days a week in the office, 2 days you can work from home. Whatever creative means of compensation you can provide. Some of the bigger organizations provide stock options to their employees. They have bolstered 401k matching percentages from the bigger organization. There are ways you can get creative with compensation. It doesn't have to just be here's a bonus, here's higher salary. Work-life balance is considered compensation these days. If I don't have to work 12 hours a day, 10 to 12 hours a day, you're giving me back my time. You're giving me back time so I can spend it with my family and whatever personal priorities I have. That's a valuable thing. That's a valuable way to compensate people if that's what they want. That goes back to, again, what we talked about, building better relationships by identifying what their motivations are, what their career goals are, what they're looking for out of this opportunity. And then if you can compensate them on that, and it's going to be beneficial to the team in the long run, do it. Some other considerations that I want to touch on, and this is, again, something that I don't think enough leaders even have the time or make the time to sit down and think about and sort of run the numbers on, but how you recruit members of your team, how you recruit talent. Oftentimes, I don't know the percentage, but it's got to be more than 90% of the time. If you look at any job posting out there, it lists out what the job roles and responsibilities are, and then what the experience and skill requirements are to apply for the role. And it's very much heavily influenced by your experience and skill level and maybe education too. A lot of organizations and jobs require certain degree levels and certifications and stuff like that. So maybe you start flipping that narrative a little bit. You start shifting that mindset to finding people that more align with the values that you hold and the values of the organization, that align better with the mission and strategic goals of the organization. And if you start aligning those values up when you're recruiting, if you start searching for people that align with those values, more often than not, you could teach them the skills. You could teach them the hard skills. You can send them to the certification programs to get spun up on the technical level skills, the proficiency to perform in the duties they're being hired for. And it's a lot easier and a lot more effective and more beneficial in the long run if you find somebody, you hire somebody that wants to be there for those reasons, as opposed to I'm very good at what I do and I'm searching for jobs that will pay the most or whatever. Again, the people that want to be there will learn the hard skills to stick around. So maybe start adjusting your how you recruit your talent to identify, does this person align with the values that I hold and that this organization holds? You can look, most positions you can find talent all over the place. You can find the people with the skills to do almost anything these days. Not everything. I don't want to generalize too much, but for most of the jobs out there, you can find the talent pretty easily. But if you can't find the people that have the morals and ethics and work ethic and values that align with your organization, it's going to be tough to keep those people around. And not just for them leaving, but you don't want to keep people around who don't align with the values of your organization. You don't want to keep, again, rotten apples just because they're high performers and skill wise. If they're turning your work environment into that toxic culture, that toxic environment, you don't want them sticking around anyway. And then you're going to have to go through the process again of recruiting, hiring, interviewing, onboarding, whatever. So to make things a little easier for yourself in the beginning, think about how you're recruiting. Think about some of the questions you're going to ask them in the interview that better assess those intangibles, those soft skills that a person may possess. Their emotional intelligence, their awareness, their work ethic, what they value. Does it align with your organization? Do they have the potential to learn the hard skills? You can teach the hard skills a lot easier than you can teach ethics and morals and work ethic. Believe me. So think about something, again, that's something to consider to make things easier so that you don't have to butt up against these issues later down the road. Like the toxic employee or the employee who wants, XYZ, whatever. So something to consider. The other thing to consider here, sort of the next step, is onboarding new employees. Do you have a good format and structure that streamlines the onboarding process for a new hire? I don't necessarily like the word onboarding, but when you bring in a new member of the team, you want them to feel like part of the team as quickly as possible. And quote unquote onboarding is the way to do that. So do you have standard operating procedures in place, a process, a system in place that gets them from first day on the job to valued member of the team as quickly and effectively as possible? You don't want them off and running, immediately. Like this day two, the expectation is you're part of the team, you're doing the do, whatever, just because it's quick and easy. You want them to be able to sustain that in the long term. So you want it to be effective as well. So do you have that process in place to bring a new hire on board, get them the on-the-job training that they need to get spun up on the role that you have for them, that you hired them for, so that they can focus more on doing that job and building relationships within the team and gelling and molding as a team? If you don't, something to consider. That's something we also help with at Spearhead, is helping create those processes and systems to there's got to be a good buzzword for this, but to gel those teams. I don't want to use synergize. I don't like the corporate jargon of synergy and whatever. But there are ways to build these onboarding processes to turn a new hire into member of the team very effectively and much quicker than most people are doing it. Most organizations don't have a formalized approach to bringing in new people. And then there's other bigger organizations that their formalized approach is very much cold, ineffective check boxes on a list, on an in processing list. If you do all these things, then you're ready to rock and roll. There's more to it than that. That's a separate discussion we'll have in a future episode. Maybe we'll bring in a guest who has done this in the past, so we could talk about that more. But something to consider is how you're onboarding and how effectively you're making a new member of the team feel like a valued member of the organization. The last thing I want to touch on very quickly is setting clear expectations for each member of your team. Setting them early and then evaluating them with that person regularly. Now, what I mean by effective communication of, setting effective expectations, it has to be clearly understood by that individual on your team, by that employee. Just because you think you're clearly communicating expectations for them doesn't mean that they understand it. So we've had an episode about communication, effective communication, and how to better articulate and communicate with your team so that they understand exactly what it is you're saying to them. Go back and check that episode out as well. It's another good episode. But you want to make sure that you're communicating in a way that they're receiving it effectively, not the way you would receive it. So make sure you're setting expectations that they understand, and then you help them create the path to meeting and even exceeding those expectations. Here's what I expect from you. Here's how we can get you there. Do you read that back to me? Do you have any questions? Let me know what you think about this. What are your ideas on how to get there? This is what needs to be done. This is what the role calls for that you were hired for. Let's go. And then when I say evaluate regularly, that doesn't mean loom over their shoulder and pick apart. Oh, well, you're not going to meet expectations if you do it this way. No. Do check-ins, regular check-ins with your team members. Hey, how's things going? We're in the first quarter. You've been here for 3 months now, 4 months, whatever. How are you doing? How are you feeling about things so far? Do you need feedback from me? Do you need anything? Can I support you in any way? Do you need resources? Is there a training that you need that you haven't gotten yet? You think it was going to be beneficial to XYZ? Do these check-ins with your team members. See how they're doing. That's how you're going to better be able to evaluate their performance and their success within the team, is by having these conversations like that. Not by overseeing them from the ivory tower and then telling them what you think necessarily of their performance. It's by having a conversation, asking them how they feel that they're doing so far. And you're going to get insight on their perspective of their performance. And then you're going to be able to align their perspective with how you're seeing things from your position. And from that point, you can sit back, put all that data together, all that information together, analyze it, and then you can provide a bit of a better evaluation to them of how they're performing in the grand scheme of things. Oh, well, you think you're performing poorly. I think you're doing great. Here's why. So if you think you're performing poorly in this reason, don't worry about it because this is what I expect. This is what we're looking for. So keep up, whatever it is. Find out their side of the story. Find out their perspective of how well they think they're doing and how much value they're bringing to the team and to the individual role before you start making your own declarations of a feedback. And when you have these regular conversations with the individuals on your team, you're not only helping guide them to exceed those expectations you set for them, and you're letting them know that you're there for them. You're the backstop for them. As the leader, you got their back, and that's going to build a relationship with them long term, and it's going to keep them sticking around. Employees and individuals who feel well compensated, valued, supported by their leadership, and working in a welcoming, inspiring, motivated work environment as opposed to a toxic one, they're going to stick around. They're not going to leave and risk going to a terrible work experience simply for a slightly higher paycheck or simply for more days off or whatever it is. Build the relationship, help them reach their goals, make them feel valued, and be their support system and their backstop. Your talent won't leave. Nobody wants to leave that environment. We work 8 to 12 to 14 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes more, for our entire adult lives. For most of us, it's the time you graduate college, with 22 years old maybe. Sometimes it's even 18 years old, up until you're 65, 70. Even the retirement age is going up these days. We're talking upwards of 40, 50 years in an office environment or a work environment where most of our hours of the day awake, are spent doing work for somebody else. Build that environment. Have those good relationships. People will stick around. They're not going to go risk it to live in that existence in a toxic work environment with a crappy leader for more money. It's not worth the stress and the depression and the anxiety that comes with it. You set your team up for success. You set your organization up for success as a leader by setting your team members up for success individually. And I promise you, your team's not going to leave. The people are not going to leave. Okay? There will be instances. This is not 100%. I understand that. But generally speaking, you provide all this, and more often than not, you're going to see a lot more cohesion in your team. People are going to stick around a lot more. You're going to have a lot less of the cycle of losing talent, hiring, onboarding, interviewing, crap. Okay? That's all I got to say about that today, folks. Before we go, very quickly, I always do this on the Leadership Lab. Talk about the big three. It's part of Spearhead Leadership's core values. It's part of my core values as well. And it's part of the core values of the Libretti Leadership Lab here too. It's the 3 pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, and a better leader overall in life. Number 1, exercise every day. Do one thing every day to improve your fitness and health and wellness physically, mentally, or emotionally. So it can be a physical workout at the gym, a jog outside, jumping jacks, push-ups, whatever. It could be a mental workout, taking a new hobby, learning a new language, taking piano lessons. Or it can be an emotional exercise, praying, meditating, breath work, what have you. Number 2, the hardest one to do, don't be a crappy, negative person. Be a kind person. This world is flooded with negativity. Our brains are constantly in the negative as it is, as a survival mechanism ingrained in us, is to look for the negative, to avoid it, to stay in our comfort zones. That's the survival mechanism. So we're constantly surrounded by negativity. So when the opportunity arises to be negative and crappy to somebody, especially on the internet, on your phones, on social media, you see something you don't like from somebody and you think they're a mean person and you want to take that jab at them and respond and be negative, even if you think they deserve it, take the step back, take a deep breath, take the step back, detach from those emotions and negativity. Don't react to the emotions, detach from them, and just remove yourself from the situation. Put the phone down, close the laptop, walk away. That way, you're going to be removing yourself from the negativity so that you can focus on more positive, productive things in your life, like exercising, perhaps, and you're minimizing the negativity and chaos and crap going on in the world around you. And when you're able to do that, you are much less likely to spiral down into anxiety-ridden states, depression, stress, what have you. Number 3, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. Now, you can do this effectively a little bit each and every day by just thinking, actively taking time to think of one good thing in your life. It takes a minute tops. You think about one good thing going on in your life, one good person, experience, whatever, and then think about what your life would be like without that thing. It could be something as simple as running water, something we don't even think about ever in our day-to-day lives. But if you take 30 seconds to a minute to think about what would my life be like without running water in my house, you immediately put yourself in a state of gratitude as opposed to, again, taking things for granted. So if you do these 3 things a little bit each and every day, repetition, 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 I promise you, you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, and a better leader overall in life. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Find us on our website, spearheadleadership.co. Find us on Instagram at _spearhead leadership. Find us on LinkedIn at spearhead leadership. And if you got value out of this, comment the word leadership at the bottom here underneath the video. You get a shout out in a future episode. Tony Saccone commented leadership in a previous episode, so he gets a shout out. Thank you for getting value out of the Libretti Leadership Lab. We appreciate you. Thank you guys again. Libretti.